I haven't read the newspaper, the news, and I deleted the Facebook app for a few days just because I needed a break from everything. I haven't read the newspaper in 4 days. I'm just like taking a break from all that because it's been exhausting.
I feel like for the past 4 years, we've just been inundated with a crazy amount of news, and it just comes at you like a damn machine gun, just constantly. And especially in the last, I mean, it's not going to get any better. So this is just, and I don't know if it's ever going to get better. Just with the ease of access to news. If you think about, 20 years ago, you watched news at night, at 10 o'clock or whenever it was on TV. So now we kind of live in a world where we get it all of the time. And for me, I don't think that that's healthy. Like on a lot of different levels. One, a lot of times they get it wrong. So it's tough to sit there and say, well, when something is breaking, yeah, that's great to know, but it's it's not the whole story. Like you don't get the
No.
whole story of anything up until like at least a couple days, maybe even weeks, maybe even months, or maybe never. So like, what's everybody's thoughts about that? Especially with just the election coming up and everything, just the amount of insanity that's just coming at you all of the time on all of your screens.
I actually, to your point, I think that's kind of, you hit it on the head with the question. I think it's unhealthy to fill ourselves with what is currently considered news on a daily basis because it's not news. It's biased, typically based on everything being linked. Really, that's big news to political affiliations. So, I earlier I said, and I was just joking, but it's true. I don't listen to the news or read news stories. Typically, if I see something in my news feed or anything like that, I'll do a quick browse and that is it. I don't really read into it too much because most of the time, it's not actually the story. It's somebody else's quick interpretation up front. And as you just said, David, it's mostly misinformed. Um, and so it's the story's not going to be there for a few days. And I feel like all news outlets and media outlets are rushing to be the first to potentially break news instead of doing a good job in reporting and journalism. So there's that aspect of it, and I think the most unhealthy aspect of it is that when is the last time that a tragedy happened and we as a country mourned together? It wasn't it wasn't like breaking news, like plane flies into building for 9/11. Like there was some negative feelings towards the Muslim world at that time, but still, as a country as a whole, we came together. We mourned together. We supported one another, and then we said, okay, what type of retaliation has to happen days and even weeks after? We're as a country and as a people, we're losing our I mean, we're really losing our ties to one another, and it's starting to become somewhat of an issue because every situation that comes out has that political affiliation. Like the kid with the 17-year-old kid with the AR-15. He did some bad stuff. Some other people did some bad stuff, and the story went down how the story went down. I can't even tell you the details because the news outlets are muddied one way or the other. You're really not going to know exactly what happened, but you could try to piece together that information. But immediately, people started attacking one another and started realizing some people lost a loved one. This kid was attacked. Yes, that's bad. Shouldn't randomly attack somebody. Was he provoking them? I don't know. But there's things and in a we're in a time where we don't look at stories and assess the situation and understand how a young kid could be scared and maybe use a gun when he shouldn't. But also, why was he carrying the gun? And instead of looking at these things and realizing what's going on, we jump to conclusions. We push uh, whatever type of narrative that it is that we're predisposed to at this point, because it's either political, religious, something out there right now. Everything is, we have this story, attack the other side. And there's people involved, there's families involved, and there's our fellow friends and family involved. And somewhere along the line, news has gotten away from being news and bringing us together. And now its whole purpose is to kind of rip us apart. And I think, like you said, just doubling back, you nailed it on the head, David. It's just too much. It's in your face. Everything is super negative. And now that they are making it to where it's got one bias over the other, now it's kind of forcing us to attack each other all around. And so I do think it's a little bit negative.
I'm going to jump in here real quick. I'm going to actually defend the media to a point. There's a difference between reporting and 24-hour. You have to really differentiate when you're watching it between filler, between propaganda, if you will, coming on either side, or really ratings, because that's what they're putting through. But there are times where the news actually is reported, and it's a difficult job. I think we're seeing a movement in our country that goes against this whole last few years of media sucks, fake news, this is fake. That's all designed to get rid of the media. It's almost a push against the First Amendment, to be honest with you. And I know it takes a national tragedy for the country to come together, but it's kind of always been like that. Like 9/11, that was an attack on the country. When there's a major hurricane that destroyed Hurricane Sandy in New Jersey, that was a time where the country comes together. It usually takes something like that because of our country is so large. And really our region, we're loosely tied together in a way, but we're very regional with our problems. Like I didn't see anybody taking advantage politically when there were flooding in southern West Virginia, because that was a West Virginia issue. So all West Virginia comes together. Does that make sense, what I'm trying to say there? But yeah, but when it comes to the media, though, you have to, this is something I actually take, because I have to be surrounded by the media and current events all the time, because that's what I do for my job. And one thing I always like to point out with my students, I'll show them 2 clips about the same thing, and I'll say which one is news and which one is entertainment. Because when you have 24-hour news networks, you have to have certain amounts of entertainment through that. So it depends on what you're wanting to watch. If you want to watch a 10-minute monologue or 10 minutes of 2 guys arguing about something, that's entertainment. If you want to watch the news, they do report the news there too. So you just have to kind of really pick your battles when it comes to what you're watching. But they are still reporting the news. When there is something hectic happening, they try to just throw as much information out there at once and then try to piece it together afterwards. And there's some positives and some negatives about that. 24-hour media was built for an event like 9/11. When 9/11 was happening, you had constant all the time. People needed updates all the time, and chaos was happening all the time. That's an event. It's not built, even what happened in Kenosha, 24-hour news, that isn't really built for that, because it was one quick short event and then over, and then it's going to take months to actually figure out what went on. But that's not what 24 hours really built for. So, and we're close to an election. Anytime you're close to an election, it's miserable. There's one thing I know about living in Clarksburg. I hate June in election year, because June in election years, when there's a city council, all you hear about is how awful everything is for 6 weeks straight till the election happens. Everybody's miserable in the whole city the entire time because it's an election year. And that's how really our country is for about 3 months before a presidential election. From about June or July to November, it's nothing but awful. Awful news, awful everything all the time, because everybody's pushing, a political agenda.
There's another big thing. I was actually watching a Netflix special probably last week, and with your 24-hour news, there's these guys, nice vehicles. They literally go to certain scenes of bad crashes or stuff over national, and they'll film it, and then they'll sell it to national media markets, regional media markets, and small media markets, and they'll get paid $500-600, and they do this all night. Like, that's something that I noticed about the news lately. Is these guys will have really nice cars and they'll go to different parts. I think this is based out of California, and they'll just have a team going around different cities and picking these stuff up, and then say, hey, shoot it to WKLX, and they'll pay them like a certain amount of money and go that route. I mean, that's my take on it. I mean, it's a big money thing now, and these little guys are trying to make money and get all this stuff to the big guys, and you got to sensationalize stuff when it comes down to it, to keep an audience. I mean, like I said, I'll find out one day what that's called, and you guys watch it. They do everything. It's wild, just for the money.
Yeah, I think I see the point, but I look at the media, and you're right. Most of them, even your hardcore, one way or another, whether it be Fox News, whether it be CNN, MSNBC, whatever it is, do report a lot of news, but they bury that within the context of entertainment. So it's very difficult for the consumer to understand what is entertainment and what is news. And that's on purpose. So that's where I think I blame the media, the media, if you want to do that. But the major news outlets have done that, and they've done that to have ratings. I get why they have done that.
Yeah.
I think that actually hurts way more than it does help.
That's our fault, though.
Yep, and that's
we don't
that's
tune
kind of
in to
what I
watch
was
the
gonna-
news.
That's what I was going to hop on, Eric. Is that I don't think the news used to be quite as I guess it was always ratings driven, of course, but I don't think there was as much opinion in news, until more recently, and I think that we are now, as individuals and people, it's almost like a story comes up and it's all right, which side do you fall on? You're this side or that side, and then you just start attacking.
But on the other coin,
now even without the news separating us from the last couple of years, we're separating ourselves. So you're right. We as people have to say, hey, either we demand better from you, we want the information, and maybe you save your entertainment for the hours between this and this. But when I watch the news at 11 o'clock news at night, whatever your news program is, when I tune in, I want the news here, and we need to do better about just coming out and doing what was kind of separating us to begin with. Because I think when they started with the initial entertainment, there was a lot of separation there.
But there was also a lot of censorship there, though, and that's
there
an
was,
issue.
and I don't think
because that's why it's good and bad right now, because there is more transparency now. Because you take the Vietnam War, for example, or stuff that happened, they literally just covered stuff up all the time. I mean, it was just not reported on, and nobody ever heard anything about it. So it's good and bad at the same. I mean,
I agree, but that's kind of what I'm saying is that it's not all their fault. But at this point, we are literally. And I know I say the media, but the media, as you guys said, it's not all just news. It's some of it is entertainment, and there's an easy nut to find a breaking story and push it one way or the other and get a lot of hits. And in today's world, there's the news, and then there's the media and entertainment, and that entertainment is sometimes hard to decipher from the news. And I think that does make it tough. And you're right, it's not all the media. And we shouldn't be, I'm not saying shut the media down, censor the media, everything like that. I'm just saying that there's a lot of divisive stuff right now, and we have to take it upon ourselves to discuss topics and come up with our own opinions instead of trying to get it from other people's. Kind of where I'm at on that.
Sam, chime in.
We need to go back to the news being the ones that are the reputable, professionals that produce facts and distribute them to the people, the American people. Because now anybody and their brother has an opinion page, has this out there, and you get everybody that sees the first thing that they see on Facebook that has a statistic that somebody made up and slapped it onto a meme, and everybody hits the share button because it's simple. It says, well, here, it says it right here. It has to be true. None of it's true. I swear, and I know there's no statistic to say X amount of stuff shared on Facebook is true or not, but I would venture to say that the majority of the things that get passed around on there are misinformation and sway everybody's opinion on everything, to where we need to go back to using social media as, something that you want to, if you want to interact with friends and family or whatever, that's fine. But let's not use social media for political gain.
I mean, I actually just saw that today with a quote from Larry Bird about the NBA and how he thinks they need to play basketball and not nil and all this other stuff. And quick Google search, boom, not true. didn't even happen. And I was a awful person, and pretty sure I made the guy mad because I said, this ain't true, and he got a little irritated over it.
So, a little bit of true story. I was actually discussing just general issue politics online, and it was somebody who was, let's say, they were very passionate about a specific discussion, and I'm not even going to go into details about the discussion itself. But I was like, did you not fact check that story? Like, the claims and the basis that you were making are so wrong. And he told me with a straight face, did you not know that all fact check is done by ex-strippers? I said,
Wow.
Wait, all of it. Wait, what? And he, I mean, I was
Wait a
waiting for
minute.
the punchline.
That's
I swear
a
to God.
fact check site I want to go to.
Swear to God. And I was like, wait
Give
a
me
minute,
that
what?
fact, Victor.
No,
And he goes,
Fact
I mean,
check
man.
that.
They can probably tell a liar a lot better than a lot of people.
But
That's
he goes-
probably
he goes,
true.
Seriously, all the online fact checking done by Twitter and Facebook right now is done by ex-strippers. And so we got to a point in the conversation where I was just like, listen, I get that you're telling me all the places where I got my information are wrong, but can you tell me where to find these strippers that know all the information? And he was like, no, the strippers, they don't know. That's why you can't trust the fact check information. I said, so where do you get your information? He goes, well, from like where it happens. And I was like, so you were there like at this specific point? And he goes, no.
I would like to know where they're working out of, so that I can fact check their fact checks.
Yes.
And that's what I would like to do.
Are you
let's
trying to
move on
fact
from
check
that.
the measurements, David?
Let's move. Yeah, well, you got to. Sometimes you have to. You know what? I can find a little measuring tape or whatever I need to. You know
I
what?
mean,
I can do this.
If
The
you
point
wanted to,
is, I can do.
You could do
if
the
you
one
want to
in
go
school.
like old jobs, you could say this whole thing's run by ex-pool guys. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, if you wanted to pick old jobs, I mean, even if somebody was a stripper, that doesn't mean they can't fact check. I mean, if they went to college and stripped in college and then became a legitimate fact checker,
Yes,
what
yes,
their
but
old
his
job
claim
actually
wasn't-
doesn't
fact check.
mean. You know what I
His
mean?
claim
Like,
wasn't
Hashtag
one
feminism.
ex-stripper. His claim was that all fact checking.
well,
is
if
done
they
by
all worked together in the
ex-strippers.
same club and decided to be fact checkers for the rest of their lives, more power to them.
And make
And
these